So you presented your content strategy and then they cut the budget anyway. You can't figure out what went wrong. You followed the playbook, you had the metrics, you had the ROI deck, you even worked AI into the slides because, well, doesn't everything with AI get funded these days? Meh, it didn't matter. You walked out with a smaller content marketing budget, and I'll tell you what went wrong. You asked for the wrong thing. Hey everybody, welcome back to Rose Colored Glasses. I'm Robert Rose, Chief Strategy Advisor for the Content Marketing Institute, and this is episode 3 of our 4-part May series on the end of campaign first marketing. So in episode 1, a couple of weeks ago, we made the case that content-led marketing is what comes after these 30 years of campaign era workarounds. And in episode 2, last week, we dove into the operating model of this new idea, marketing and content operations versus orchestration. Yes, marketing orchestration, content orchestration, and what changes in the org chart, why most marketing teams are still organized for 2016 instead of 2026. And now we left that one on a bit of a cliffhanger because the conversation, the one where you have to walk into the Executive Marketing Council's review and make the case for all of this new stuff to people who control the budget and have approximately zero patience for things that don't fit on the quarterly dashboard that they are so used to. And worse, they probably understand less about the realities of today's marketing than you do. So the conversation is what today is about, that conversation. Let's get into it. So, quick story. There was a content person, content marketing practitioner at a healthcare technology company, and he was going to lose his budget. Excellent journalist, strong writer, had built a real team and his audience for the company itself. He was getting cut budget anyway. Now, his self-diagnosis was this. He was thinking, I don't understand marketing well enough. He couldn't answer the questions crisply that leadership had about attribution and marketing ROI and all of that. It was all about quantities, leads, conversions, ROAS, and traffic, and how to connect that to revenue and sales and or a million other class campaign-based marketing buzzwords. So he figured he needed to learn more about marketing so that he could communicate in that way. Spoiler alert, he didn't. Or, maybe he did also, but that wasn't the issue. More importantly, as a former journalist that worked in a media operation as a content professional, he had already learned the thing that the company actually needed. He just didn't know how to ask for it in his language. You see, most marketing leaders lose the argument of modern content marketing because of a tension between time and tenure. So here's an example of this. So research firm Spencer Stuart's most recent data has CMO tenure at 4.1 years. Now that's compared with 5 years for the rest of the C-suite. The CMO knows she is going to be there less time than anybody else. So when she walks into the executive review and thinks to ask for a long time horizon investment, what she's actually asking to do is, pave a road that she probably won't drive on. Then if you add Gartner's 2026 CMO spend survey, where marketing budgets flatlined at 7.8% of revenue, 56% of CMOs say they don't have the budget to execute a 2026 strategy. The CEO is asking for revenue growth, AI-driven transformation, all of it simultaneously. Less money, less time, fewer people. And then here you come walking into the room with your ask for better content-led marketing and more things. And so, this journalist turned content marketer at the healthcare company, let me tell you what was actually happening. So, he'd been there a few years, built a small but loyal audience around the company's blog and their resource center. The kind of operation that, if you measured it properly, was doing exactly what content marketing is supposed to do. People came back, they read the next thing, the brand had a voice, they recognized they were reaching new people, driving organic search, creating trust, and getting referred more frequently. But marketing leadership kept asking him a different set of questions. What is the attribution model? What is the pipeline contribution? Does content quality really matter now? Because we can probably get more out of this with less. In other words, AI is supposed to do half of this work now, right? And he couldn't answer those questions fluently. He concluded the problem was him, that he needed to learn more about marketing and classic campaign-oriented metrics so that he could align his team's efforts with, the classic marketing organization. But here is what was actually happening. He was making the mistake that I see so many marketing leaders now making when they pitch content and content-led marketing. He was trying to translate what he was doing into the vocabulary the business already used. Engagement, MQLs, awareness, pipeline contribution, the standard menu of classic campaign-focused marketing. That translation is the trap, because every word he was translating into what was really a campaign era word, every metric he was reaching for, it was a metric that the business already had a way to measure, already had a budget line for, already had a verdict on. And the verdict was, by the way, we already do that, so we're not impressed with your need for more to do more of that. And we can probably do it more efficiently, really. Said even more simply, if you go into the room and you ask the room for more resources to make better content, what the room hears is, are you saying our current content isn't good enough and that you're not creating good content? And if it's not, why would giving you more ensure that we would get better content? And if you ask for thought leadership, the room hears, well, we already pay for thought leadership. We have subject matter expertise. We're thought leaders, aren't we? If you ask for awareness, the room hears, we've got a brand team for that. We're already doing that. That's outside of your remit. In other words, you're going in looking for permission to build better cars to add to the roads when what you need are better roads to drive the cars you have. Here's the part that a lot of content and marketing people miss, right? The CMO isn't unaware that something is wrong. They know something is wrong. She can feel it. The brand is speaking in too many voices, across too many surfaces. Paid campaigns say one thing, sales decks say another, support documentation has its own personality, employee LinkedIn posts are a wild card, vendor co-marketing has watered the brand down to a logo and a tagline, and now AI surfaces, chatbots, answer engines, agents, and they're all summarizing the company in ways nobody at the company has any control over. That's why more content isn't the answer. The CMO knows there is a problem. She just doesn't have a name for it. So when my colleague, the journalist turned content marketer, walked in and said, we want better content, what she heard was the wrong answer to a question that she hadn't quite really formulated well yet. The right question, the one he eventually landed on for her, was completely different. He didn't ask for a content marketing program. He asked for an integrated media operation that could help drive multiple marketing objectives. A center of excellence for the brand's media as a business strategy. Owned content, strategically distributed content, media, editorially led paid, all running from the same playbook, the same strategy, against the same audience priorities, in the same voice. That reframe is the whole move. Most marketing leaders walk into the executive review asking for the ability to create more and more content assets, better content assets. And that pitch that gets funded, well, it rather asks for a media operation in which content drives a specific business outcome. But now, wait a minute, let's not forget that tenure question, right? That might be the objection coming. This is a long-term play. How do we create results immediately by building an entire media operation? And you might be aware, remember that CMO who is 2 years into what's probably going to be a 4-year tenure, right, is probably pretty allergic to long-term plays, right? Here's the counterintuitive flip. This is the most original move in the whole deal. So any campaign funded in year one of a CMO's tenure is long finished by the time she leaves. Those campaigns worked or they didn't. Almost certainly, the next CMO walks into a profit and loss statement with nothing to build on. The road has nowhere to go because there is no road. They're all gone. Each new CMO repaves the same intersection. So a media operation funded in year one of the CMO's tenure is something else. It's the editorial backbone that is built, the audience relationships that gets funded, the orchestration discipline that we install. Those compound across her tenure and after she is gone. This runs as the operating system of a content-led marketing strategy, and campaigns are layered into that new infrastructure. She may never personally drive to the end of the road, and this isn't the point. The road is the point. The road carries traffic for the next CMO and the CMO after that. The executive team that funded the construction looks a lot less like leadership that gambled on a long horizon and more like leadership that finally built something durable. That is the argument. Well, arguments, plural, I guess, for funding a media operation under a tenure-constrained CMO. It is not trust me, this is going to work eventually. It is closer to, this is the only marketing investment where value is going to be durable over months and quarters and years. And it's baked into the next 49 months of your tenure. Now, obviously, I get it. You don't make that argument literally, and it may not resonate with every leader, right? Some leaders are too short-sighted for it, but a focus on building a new operation instead of a better content doesn't make it the wrong argument to make. It makes it the right argument to make in the right era, no matter who you are. All right. So now, but of course, you can't just say, let's build out a media operation and just leave it at that. That argument gets you a seat at the table, maybe. It doesn't get you the budget. For that, you've got to ask for the right thing. And the words you choose to decide whether the room hears a case for a durable capability or another content campaign in a fresher wrapper really do matter. So marketing vocabulary is, as we've talked about, built for campaigns: engagement, awareness, MQLs, conversions, share of voice, thought leadership. The words feel native because they are. Native to the campaign-based marketing function we have all been working inside for 30 years. But again, to the executive, those words signal something very specific. They signal, I'm asking for a different version of more of what we already do. Engagement is a dial the team can push on. MQLs is a number of other parts of the business. They already do that. Awareness is what the brand team is for. Let's change that. Let's use our media and content vocabulary to drive outcomes the business can act on, not just dials the marketing team can press on harder. Not just translating those terms, but having different conversations. Buyer demand, signal density across priority accounts. Now, I know that sounds like a bunch of marketing gobbledygook and jargon for engagement, but regardless of how you want to call it, it is a different thing. Engagement is a marketing output. Demand signal density is a sales reality. We can use content to provide insights to sales that they can either see which accounts are in market right now or not. That's a value. There are a number of others that I cover in the article that I wrote on this idea. And so eventually, my colleague, well, he got his budget. Not because he learned more marketing, but because he stopped apologizing for being a journalist and started behaving like the head of a media-led operation that supports a business objective. He named the thing the company actually needed, an integrated media operation, orchestration, and made the case for it in terms the business could underwrite as taking action for a business strategy. I've watched this happen. It is the work that I do every day with clients in my consulting practice. Reframing the pitch into an operation as opposed to campaign marketing, helping marketing leaders ask for the right thing in the right room, designing the operating model that backs the ask. If you're heading into one of these conversations and want help thinking it through, the link is in the description. And, well, let's go back to where we started here, right? You presented a content strategy. They cut the budget anyway. The reason isn't that they don't believe in content. The reason isn't that they don't see the data. The reason is what you walked in asking for. You asked for content. They funded content the way they always have, as a campaign on a project timeline against metrics that have nothing to do with what content actually builds. The pitch that's going to work for you asks for something else. A media operation, not a content program. An asset, not an activity. A durable capability that outlives any CMO who funded it, the thing the business actually needs but hasn't been able to quite name yet. Walk in with that pitch, the room recognizing it, especially the CFO. So next week, that's the final episode, and they're going to look at the companies that have already done all of this, right? The content-led organizations whose pitches got funded, whose operating models took shape, and whose numbers are visible enough to use as proof points in your own conversation. In the meantime, remember, it's your story. Pitch it well. I'll see you next week.